Okay, continuing with Dewey, getting a sense for what he intends with his educational philosophy. Of course, in the first chapter, indirect moral instruction is vital. That's the big takeaway. Next, we have the moral training given by the school community. First of all, right in the title, we have the word school community. So that's a school functioning as a community. Not in its service to the community, or maybe so. Let's find out, right? But school community is a segmented thing, right? Here's a school, its own community. There cannot be two sets of ethical principles, one for life in the school and the other for life outside of the school. I use this quote so much in my understanding of Dewey, but I also think that it might be taking Dewey too far. In fact, I feel like Dewey, when I read him, wants to break down the walls between the school and the society. The school and specifically the culture of the town, neighborhood, community outside of the school. But maybe I'm going too far with my reading of Dewey and taking it too much in the direction of, say, Gustavo Esteva and Madhu Prakash in their Escaping Education. Where the community becomes more centralized. In fairness, Madhu did write one of her earlier papers on Dewey for radical educators. Okay, continuing. As conduct is one, so also the principles of conduct are one. Okay, what's he going to make of this oneness? Conduct is one, the principles are one. The tendency to discuss the morals of the school as if the school were an institution by itself is highly unfortunate. See, you understand how I read this, right? Whenever I pulled from Dewey, the institution by itself. Even though I just consider the institution by itself as highly unfortunate, right? The two must be one, right? The school and the community. The moral responsibility of the school and of those who conduct it is to society. Okay, so he uses the word society here, which is fine. Society has come to mean more so like high society than community. But this is 1910. He was in the same school teaching as Franz Boas, so maybe by 1910 he would have heard culture in the philosophy department, maybe. The school is fundamentally an institution erected by society to do a certain specific work. To exercise a certain specific function in maintaining the life and advancing the welfare of society. Another reason I don't like society is it seems too global, right? What society are we talking about? Are we talking about the world society? Are we talking about the American society? And when we talk about community, that makes us think smaller, right? The community of this neighborhood. And each neighborhood really does have a particular way of being. Even in a town as small as State College, with 50,000 people here, Green Tree has a different feeling than Holmes Foster, different than Park Forest, different than Patton Township, different than Boalsburg, which is its own town but has been brought into it, right? Different than Lamont. So society is just big, right? The educational system, which does not recognize this fact, entails upon it an ethical responsibility is derelict and a defaulter. I couldn't say it harder, could I? That those who are not connecting what's going on to the school, to the community, are being derelict. I don't know if I'd say that to people's faces, though. That's pretty mean. You're being derelict doing that program without bringing in Grammy. It is not doing what it was called into existence to do, and what it pretends to do. Hence, the entire structure of school in general, and its concrete workings in particular, need to be considered from time to time with reference to the social position and function of the school. Considered from time to time with reference to the social position and function of the school. Okay. So definitely not as much as could be done, right? But at least at some time just rechecking, is this in line with what our community wants for its adults? Sadly, most schools train kids to leave home, right? To go places. I've said this before. So they are derelict of their moral responsibility. I think I'd probably split this chapter into two, get it down to about 10 minutes of each, right? Okay. The idea of the moral work and worth of public school system as a whole are to be measured by its social value is indeed a familiar notion. However, it is frequently taken in too limited and rigid a way. Okay, so what does he mean? So social value of school obviously has always been considered. The cathedral school in Chartres served a social value to society, with society at that time being the church and the feudal system. And that should be different in a liberal democracy or a democratic republic or a constitutional democracy, whatever you would call this experiment we have had for a couple hundred years. That always seems in crisis. But, okay, so what does he mean by taking it too limited a way? How's it limited? Let's see. The social work of the school is often limited to training for citizenship. And citizenship is then interpreted in a narrow sense in meaning capacity to vote intelligently, disposition to obey the laws, etc. But here's a question. Have we done a good job in training in our public schools the citizenship to vote intelligently? I ask you whether you voted for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump last time. Do you think the other side voted intelligently? Do you think your side voted intelligently? So many people held their nose to vote intelligently. So even in that narrow sense, I don't know that we've done it, right? Continue on. But it is futile to contract and cramp the ethical responsibility of school in this way. The child is one. Okay, back to this oneness idea. I feel like I'm reading Emerson sometimes, a Unitarian. Continuing on. Of course, he is another American philosopher, so he would have been well disposed to Emerson, I would think. The child is one, and he must either live his social life as an integral, unified being, or suffer loss and create friction. Are we creating unified beings that are so happy? Or do we have people who are multiple minds within themselves and so unhappy? To pick out one of the many social relations which the child bears and define the work of the school as that alone is like insinuating a vast and complicated system of physical exercise, which would have for its object simply the development of the lungs and the power of breathing. Let's call that cardio. Independent of other organs and functions. The child is an organic whole, intellectually, socially, and morally, as well as physically. We must take the child as a member of society in the broadest sense and demand for and from the schools whatever is necessary to enable the child intelligently to recognize all the social relationships that take a part in sustaining them. To isolate the formal relationship of citizenship from the whole system of relationships with which it is actually interwoven, to suppose that there is some one particular study or mode of treatment which can make a child a good citizen, to suppose, in other words, that a good citizen is anything more than a thoroughly efficient and serviceable member of society, one with all of his powers of body and mind under control, is a hampering superstition which it is hoped may soon disappear from educational discussion. We're even more efficiency-minded and service-minded than ever, even though the service now is to tech companies and to themselves and to their screen addictions that we teach kids to have. And efficiency is efficient in taking the PSSAs. See how efficiently they can do that. Okay, so we're going to stop there. Pick back up next time. Halfway through this chapter. Not even half. Just got a little bit into it. But see you tomorrow. Have a blessed day.